Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Monday, July 21st, 2025. Hope everybody had a chance to check out last night's historical comic retrospect, in which the metal was on with me as we excuse me for one quick moment. I will go ahead here and just put some music on for a moment while I'm, of course, taking care of something else here. I'll be right back. All right, there we go. Hopefully, everybody's having a good time thus far. We're just waiting on some more people to show up um, before we get started. Um, with that being said, hopefully everybody had a good start to the week here today. Today being Monday, July the 21st, 2025. As I said, we're just waiting around for more people to show up before we get started. Um, So I did watch some more. Oh, and friendly reminder, of course, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let's see now. What else can we talk about here? Okay, we're almost at the 3 minute mark here, so I might as well um, let me try one more thing. I'll be right back here once again. All right, I'm back now. So hopefully everybody's so well. Of course, now we're just after the 4 minute mark here. So I guess I'll talk about what's on tap tonight. Got a couple articles I'm going to go over tonight. One from MeTV Tunes, the other from Bounding into Comics, and going to get into a bit of a wacky bit here because one, MeTV Tunes will be celebrating Bugs Bunny's 85th birthday coming up. This Sunday. So we'll be going over that article from ETV Tunes. And also, Paul Dini had, which there was a time back in the 90s. Okay, I gotta wait to see if the signal is gonna. I just stopped for a moment because of the fact apparently StreamYard is being a little silly with the signal here. All right. Hopefully that was just a temporary issue. But anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and look over. Go ahead and look over the article regarding Me TV Tunes celebration of Bugs Bunny's birthday, and then we are also going to be looking at, I guess, an interview Paul Dini did recently where he acknowledged that he was trying to get together with Steven Spielberg so that they could do a crossover between Harley Quinn from the DCU and here we go again with this signal. And Freakazoid from Steven Spielberg's universe. So could you imagine? Could you imagine that though? You know, Freakazoid and Harley Quinn together. Hmm. Oh, everybody here? All right. I'm just never too happy when I see connection is unstable. If you're on Wi-Fi, try in your yeah. Well, there's always things happen in the summer too. The connection has a connection goes a little goofy at times. But anyways, it looks like it's cleared itself out. Hopefully that's the end of that issue today. But anyways, let's go ahead then. Let me pull up first article of the evening here. All right, so there we go. There's the first story we're gonna do today. And as always, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions the best of my ability. So with that being said, here we go. MeTV Tunes invites you to celebrate Bugs Bunny's birthday bash. We're celebrating the Wascally Wabbit's 85th birthday with a day full of hopping good Bugs Bunny cartoons. Article published earlier today by MeTV Tunes staff. So let's see what's going on here. Alrighty then. So Bugs Bunny is turning 85 this year. So we are throwing him a birthday party of epic proportions. MeTV Tunes invites you to Bugs Bunny's birthday bash on Sunday, July 27th. Um, Last year's party started at 10 a.m., 9 Central, 7 Pacific, but this year's party starts at 6 a.m. Eastern, 5 Central, and that would be 3 a.m. Pacific. We are celebrating Bugs all day long with over 100 classic Looney Tunes, and we are also hopping down memory lane with Bug specials. Travel back in time to Camelot with Bugs Bunny and King Arthur's court. Watch stars like Cher and Bill Murray share their love of Bugs Bunny in Looney Tunes All Star 50th anniversary. Um, Tune in for the MeTV Tunes original documentary, Hairs to Bugs, a Bugs Bunny celebration featuring voice actors, cartoon historians, and more. It's going to be all bugs all day long, only on MeTV Tunes. Here's some of the cartoons you can look forward to seeing. Let's see. Starting off at 6 a.m., 5 Central, 3 Pacific. Hair Trigger, Buccaneer Bunny, High Diving Hare, and Devil's Food Cake. And an hour later, I guess this is. And then you got Yankee Doodle Bugs. Here we go again. Bonanza Bunny, Napoleon Bunny Part. Um, I was at 7 a.m., 6 Central, 4 Pacific. At 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. What's up, Doc? The old gray hair. A hair grows in Manhattan. Then it not basically everything here, unless we otherwise are stating it, it looks like it's going to be about an hour long each. So unless otherwise stated, just so we don't have to go into everything. Um, then Alibaba Bunny, Hillbilly Hare, Big House Bunny, Frigid Hare. Then Beanstalk Bunny, Bewitched Bunny, um, Little Red Riding Rabbit. So the first 4 hours there are let's see, first 5 hours there are pretty much just you know package shows, basically package deals. Then when we get to 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central. Well, apparently at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, and 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central. That would be, of course, 8 a.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Pacific. Bugs and Davy's Carnival of Animals. Bugs and Davy take their rivalry to the stage. Coming up. Oh, okay. So that's what that first thing is take their. And then at 11:30 a.m. 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 Central, and 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. Bugs Bunny in King Arthur's court, in which Bugs ends up in King Arthur's time and is mistaken for a dragon by Sir Elmer of Fudd. Then coming up at noon Eastern and 9 p.m. Eastern in the evening, 11 Central, 8 Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Pacific. The Bugs Bunny Looney Tunes All-Star 50th Celebration. Celebrities celebrate Bugs Bunny. That was basically back, I think, in the late 80s. I think, let's see, well, 85, so let's see, that would be 35 years. So that was actually in 1990 that had been happening, I guess. And I guess Bugs Bunny did make his debut in 1940, I guess. Let's see now. Then at 11 p.m., or I'm sorry, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific, and 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Hares to Bugs, a Bugs Bunny celebration. A heartwarming journey through the legacy of the world's most famous cartoon superstar, Bugs Bunny. Witness his extraordinary transformation from animated character to icon, with classic archival footage and inclusive new interviews with voice actors Bob Bergen, Eric Baza, Jeff Bergman, Candy Milo, Billy West, animation historian Jerry Beck, Variety's TV editor Mike Schneider, and others. Then we get another slew starting at 2 p.m., starting, of course, at from, I guess, 2 p.m. Eastern to looks like 6 p.m. Well, through all the way up to 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm taking it. Let me see. Oh, yeah, so I just. Yeah, I'm just looking over the times here just so we know. So then starting at starting at it seemed to be missing one here. I was just noticing they seem to be missing what's going to be happening at 7 p.m. Eastern, because they don't seem to have that one. They have two all the way up to 7 p.m. and I don't know if that just going to mean that. Let me go back here and see if. All right, so coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 a.m. Pacific, you got like baseball bugs, Piker's Peak, My Bunny Lies Over the Sea, Bunny Huggins, from like 2 to I guess 7 o'clock here. Um, and I'm guessing what they might do is at 7 they'll probably do like the cartoon All Stars show. That's probably why it's not listed here. But I guess we'll find out soon enough. And then you'll have Hair Tonic at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 Central, 12 noon. You'll have Hair Tonic, Bugs Bunny Gets the Boyd, Half Their Hair, Rabbit every Monday. Then at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central, 1 Pacific, Bugs and Thugs, Bugs and Muggsy, Ragdeer Rabbit, and the Unmentionables. Then 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific, Stagecoach Cartoon, Corny Concerto, Rhapsody Rabbit, Rabbit of Seville. So getting very musical there, I would take it, and at least in that hour stretch. Hmm. Hmm. Anyways, and then at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 3 Pacific, A Wild Hare, Hairbrained Hypnotist, What Opera Doc, and Wacky Wabbit. Then, after going through the specials once again, going one more time through the specials again, starting up at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 Central, 8 Pacific. Then they'll be doing, let's see, Showbiz Bugs, Duck Amuck, A Star is Bored, People Are Bunny, followed by Broomstick Bunny, Water, Water Everywhere, Every Hair, and A Witch's Tangled Web. So at least now at least in that time frame, they're just doing 3. And at 1 a.m. Eastern, midnight Central, 10 p.m. Pacific, Hair Devil Hair, Super Rabbit, Hide and Hair Raising Hair, 2 a.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific. Unswept Hair, no Parking Hair, Operation Hair, Wabbit Twebble, 8 Ball Bunny, Acrobatty Bunny, Apes of Wrath, Bowery Bugs. In the case of the missing hair, falling hair, false hair, Foxy by proxy, and then finally a greyhounded hair, hair conditioned, hair splitter, Forward March Hair. Watch Bugs Bunny and Friends on MeTV Tunes weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 6 a.m. Pacific, and 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Then Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific, and Sundays at 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific. So that's all we got for that article. And now, actually, I'm going to need to step away from the computer for a moment here. But before I do that, let me go ahead and go get to the next article here. Go set that up. Just doing 2 articles tonight. I do need to, and then once I get this set up, I'm going to need to step away from the computer for a moment. I'll be back. But what I will do, of course, is I will put some music on for you guys. Keep you entertained while I'm gone. I'll be right back. And I'm back now. So, of course, a friendly reminder to everybody if you guys can help out by liking, sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, let's get into the second article here. As such, so Batman the Animated Series EP executive producer Paul Dini wanted Steven Spielberg's Freakazoid crossover with the equally wacky Harley Quinn, but it was not to be. Article by J.B. Augustine, published July 21st, which is today. So imagine that. Imagine Harley Quinn and Freakazoid interacting. That'd be quite an interesting scenario, to say the least. There you got it right there. All right, so the zany kids show from the mind of Steven Spielberg called Freakazoid had a history like few other cartoons. First envisioned as a teen adventure with an homage to Spider-Man, Bruce Timm was in conversation to chip in. He would bow out before long as the tone shifted and Warner Brothers television executives came calling with an offer to adapt Superman. Interesting. Freakazoid, nevertheless, made it to air with the direction that's to Spielberg's liking, and it had a nice little run for itself in the mid '90s. A few Warner Brothers stablemates, including the Brain and Wacko of the Animaniacs, came along for the ride. However, for a show about a sardonic superhero, you would think more characters from DC would pop up. That almost happened with a character from Gotham City, who perfectly fit the show's tone Batman the Animated Series co-producer Paul Dini mulled approaching Freakazoid makers at Amblin Entertainment about the possibility of using Harley Quinn. Sadly, crossing streams between studios, as he put it, in parentheses here, via comic book, was verboten. Verboten. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can already see some of the gags, of Freakazoid trying to like woo Harley Quinn, and she just not having it. You know, you know, I can see it's possible that maybe Freakazoid actually becomes one of the people that Harley actually becomes afraid of. Hmm. Quote, back then, crossing the streams between the Warner Brothers DC and Warner Amblin universes was pretty much out. Also, Harley wasn't that well known back then, hence my, quote, Harley in the Brain pitch was also no go. Um, unquote, Denny explained. He also mused on X about what could have been in response to some well done fan art. Harley Quinn went on to become the most recognizable female character to originate in the early DC animated universe, thanks to an assist from Margot Robbie. Meanwhile, Freakazoid is largely forgotten despite occasional appearances that could have helped the zany Crusader crawl back from obscurity. In fact, the most recent cameo was in a crossover with the Teen Titans in the Teen Titans Go episode um, Hugbees, a continuation of some sort from there in that animation style shouldn't be hard and would be something. HBO Max might be looking to expand its catalog under the Kids tab, but until a representative says so, your kids, in parentheses, if you have any, and your nostalgic self can rewatch Freakazoid on the Internet Archive, as well as a few other places, in parentheses, although some of these options require a fee, in parentheses. And there we go with that one. So that one kind of went quite quickly. Alrighty then. So now we're done with the main articles for the evening here. All right. So now with that being said, now we're going to get ready to move on to the wrestling wrap up. So of course, going to look back to last Friday's SmackDown, Saturday's AEW Collision, as well as last night's um, Slammiversary, which there is quite a bit to talk about there. Not just because of the show itself, but also just um, the backlash that happened afterward because of what ended up happening. Some of the things that ended up happening on the show. With that being said, as well, before we do get into all, and of course we'll look ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw, as WWE is of course continuing to make its way towards SummerSlam coming up in about just under a couple weeks here, the first weekend of the 2nd and 3rd of August. So, um, and of course, And of course, AEW will be building up towards its next event, which will be Forbidden Door, which we'll be talking about over the next few weeks. All right. So, anyways, so before we do get into all that, though, there is one other little piece of news that came out on Friday that I want to make everybody aware of. So apparently on Friday, former WCW legend and former five-time WCW World Tag Team Champion Marcus Alexander Buff Bagwell ended up having to have an above-the-knee amputation to his right leg due to injuries he sustained in a car accident about 5 years ago, back in 2020. Throughout the last 5 years, they'd been trying to keep the leg, but too many problems kept coming up, and it was finally decided that he had to have the knee just severed, above an above the knee transfer. Now he's not going to let that slow that down. It is kind of sad for him, but he's not going to let that slow him down. He's still planning on being active. He's still planning on being in the wrestling business in some capacity, but he unfortunately, due to injuries he sustained in an auto accident that happened back in 2020, he was ultimately forced to lose a good chunk of his leg there above the knee, with an above the knee amputation. So our thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to him, and hope that he can adjust and move forward. So with that, though, that being said, now let's talk about let's talk a bit about what's going on in world of wrestling. As of course, as we said, WWE coming off, of course, of its last weekend too of events. The previous weekend from Saturday night's main event, the follow up to Saturday night's main event, as well as NXT Great American Bash and Evolution, as it were. Let's get into that. Just kind of waiting for the. All right, let me see if we can try that again here. All right, so it did finally come up there. Okay. Alrighty then. All right, so let's take a look at Friday Night SmackDown from this past Friday, coming off of the Evolution pay-per-view, along with Saturday Night's main event and all the stuff that came down from there. With, of course, the Friday Night SmackDown came from the Frostbank Center in San Antonio, Texas, with Joe Testatori and Wade Barrett on commentary, airing, of course, on USA Network. So the opening match saw, in a singles match, Charlotte Flair defeated Raquel Rodriguez as both Roxanne Perez and Alexa Bliss are respective partners for the two combatants. Each got involved in the ring with some help from Alexis Blair, Alexis Bliss. Charlotte Flair was able to get the pin on Raquel Rodriguez. Now, mind you, now it has been announced as well that coming up at SummerSlam, the 2-night event, now it's been signed that Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez of the Judgment Day will be defending the women's tag team championships against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. So, as fans have really taken to Flair of late, as she's been starting to team up with Alexa Bliss. The second match saw Damian Priest defeat Carmelo Hayes by DQ when Aleister Black came in to attack Priest, as Priest had been looking for him earlier in the evening. In fact, I guess Aleister Black had attacked Damian Priest on a previous episode. One other thing that happened right as the show was starting too, apparently Solo Sikoa and his MFTs were involved in an auto accident that would play out a bit later on in the evening here. The next match after the Damian Priest versus Carmelo Hayes match saw Stephanie Vaquer, who was able to secure a title shot at Clash in Paris, coming up during the gauntlet match during the Evolution, defeated Alba Fire of the Secret Herverse with Piper Niven in her corner to continue her big momentum build for that title shot coming up. And in the main event, in a number one contendership 4-way match between Andrade, Rey Fénix, DIY's Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano, who had Candice LeRae in their corner, Fraxium of Axiom and Nathan Frazier, and the Motor City Machine Guns of Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. Andrade and Rey Fénix defeated the three other teams to become the new number one contenders for the WWE Tag Team Champions. So they'll probably be the next ones to challenge the Wyatt Six for the WWE Tag Team Championships. So now before we move on to AEW, and I'm just waiting. Hopefully everything's still coming through. I'm not coming off, and you guys can still hear me and all that, because apparently I keep getting connection unstable. I don't know if that is affecting the show or not. Hopefully it's not. And it looks like the connection came back full again. So, all right. So moving on to tonight's Monday Night Raw to look ahead for that, as WWE, of course, again continues to WWE continues to build towards SummerSlam in a couple weeks here. Coming from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. Let's see. The opening match we'll see in a number one contendership 3-way match of the WWE World Tag Team titles. The New Day, the former champs, the New Day of Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, will be taking on the LWO's Cruz de la Torre and Joaquin Wilde, and American Maids Brutus and Julius Creed. Of course, the New Day is looking to regain the titles from, this time from the team that lost. They lost them to the Judgment Day. And of course, De La Torre and Wilde and the Creed brothers are looking to get their first shots at the WWE World Tag Team titles. Sheamus will be taking on Rusev in what should promise to be a very brutal battle between two powerhouses. And then Sami Zayn is set to take on Karrion Kross in a one-on-one match as well. So that's all we got for the WWE side of things. So now looking back to this past Saturday's Collision. Looking back to the Saturday's Collision. So they get there. On this last Saturday's Collision, coming off of the All In pay-per-view, there was a confrontation at the beginning of the show in which, as Tony Schiavone had brought out Dustin Rhodes to celebrate his TNT title victory, it was interrupted by Don Callis and Kyle Fletcher, which led to a bit of a confrontation, as Kyle Fletcher is still looking for his one-on-one shot for the TNT title. That happened in the promo, just at the start of the show. Then getting on to the matches, we also did, of course, in another promo, we had a confrontation between Athena and Toni Storm. Opening match saw Ricochet with his new two, with the Gates of Agony in his corner, defeating AR Fox in just over 11 minutes. As it would appear that Ricochet has brought them on to form a bit of a faction, it would appear. Megan Bayne, with everybody else barred from ringside, Megan Bayne defeated Ty Mallow of Ty J in just under 10 minutes in a singles match. Alex Windsor made her singles debut with AEW as she defeated Lyra Valkyria. Taya Valkyrie, who had Johnny TV and the M&M collection in her corner with in just over 3 minutes. Now this is at the point where after Alex had made her had won her match, that's when Athena came out to basically berate her, tell her to get out of her ring so she could have the spotlight. In a four-way tag match for $200,000, Gates of Agony defeated Big Bill and Brian Keith, crew of Action Andretti and Leo Rush, and the Guns, who had Juice Robinson in their corner representing Bullet Club Gold of Austin and Colton Gunn. Then you had Kyle O'Reilly take Max Caster up on another one of his 5-minute challenges. Try to prove to everybody that Max Caster, in his own delusional mind, is the best wrestler alive. Kyle O'Reilly beat him in just over 2 minutes. In a match that proved to be a very hard-hitting match, you had Rush, and it basically also to help lay claim to being the next challengers for the AEW World Trios title. Rush defeated Katsuyori Shibata as Dralistico and Beast Mordos came out to help their LFI leader try to beat down Shibata, only for Powerhouse Hobbs to come out to make the save for Shibata. And then the main event saw an 8-man tag team action as Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito, Mascara Dorada, and Jet Speed of Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight, the Don Callis family members of Josh Alexander, Lance Archer, Hechicero, and Rocky Romero. So there we have all the news for AEW at the moment. Now moving on to Slammiversary, as quite a few things came out of that. Basically a lot of people were and I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for it. Anyways, I'm just waiting for one of the sites to kind of maneuver through because again we're why that's happening. I'm gonna put some music in you guys. All right, it did finally do it. Okay. All right, never mind with that then. So, anyways, moving on to Slammiversary. You talk about what happened on last night's Slammiversary. Let me get there. All right, first off, on the countdown show to Slammiversary, um, and again, this show was wildly panned. We'll talk a bit about it as we're going forward. Coming from the UBS Arena in Elmont, New York, on Long Island, New York, of course, with Tom Hannafin and Matthew Rainwalt on commentary. Of course, YouTube was where the pre-show here, the countdown show was. The opening match of the pre-show saw the Elegance brand retain the TNA Knockout World Tag Team Championships over the Inspiration, of course, Ash and Heather by Elegance, with M by Elegance and Personal Concierge in their corner, defeated former TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions Cassidy and Jesse McKay, the Inspiration. The Hometown Man defeated Eric Young, who had, of course, the Northern Armory in his corner. And then you saw in the main event, a six-man tag match, Josh Bishop, Real One, formerly known as Enzo Amore, Zilla Fatu defeated Jake Something, Mance Warner, Steve Macklin with Step Lander in their corner. So basically, I haven't watched the matches themselves, but people were panning it. But I'm getting the impression people were panning it not because of the matches themselves, but basically the booking. And I'll get into that in a moment here. Now to the Slammiversary results here. The opening of the show saw Mustafa Ali with the rest of Order 4 defeating Cedric Alexander in 1432. Now, during the match, there was something that happened in which a scary incident happened in which while doing a leap over the top rope, Mustafa Ali overleapt Cedric Alexander, ended up landing on his head, but he was still able to continue the match and was okay. How the match even gave words to everybody. But then after Mustafa Ali defeating Cedric Alexander to open up the show, 8-man tag match, you saw Matt Cardona teaming with the Systems, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and JDC, Alicia Edwards in their corner, defeat Dark State of let's see, Cutler James, Dion Lennox, Osiris Griffin, and Shaquan Sugars of NXT. Match in the women's match, in the battle of two former best friends, Indy Hartwell defeated Tessa Blanchard. Of course, Tessa Blanchard had Victoria Crawford in a winner-take-all match for both the NXT and TNA, NXT Women's and TNA Knockout World Title. JC Jane defeated Masha Slamovich in one of the matches that a lot of people were real upset about. And we'll explain a little bit more why afterwards. But JC Jane, I guess I just go through the results, then I'll talk a little bit about some of the other happenings that happened on the show. JC Jane defeated Masha Slamovich. Of course, JC Jane had the rest of Fatal Influence in there. These matches are bad. So you had one title change. Another title change that happened. Leon Slater became not only the youngest in charge, but the youngest ever TNA X Division title champion, as he defeated Moose for the X Division title to become the youngest ever TNA X Division champion. After the match, of course, AJ Styles came out to verbally put over Leon Slater in his return. In a four-way ladder match for the TNA World Tag Team titles, the Hardys defeated the Nemeth, First Class, and the Rascals to become four-time champions. After the match, they were confronted by Bubba Ray asking for one more possible match between the Dudley Boys and the Hardys. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't really want to see that match at this point. You know, Matt and Jed's careers are winding down. You know, Bubba Ray and Dudley. I mean, I think Devon just barely got cleared to start wrestling again. I don't think there's going to be. I don't think even for nostalgia's sake, there's not going to be a good match. You have, and then in the main event. Now moving on to the main event, Trick Williams defeated Joe Hendry and Mike Santana to retain the TNA World title. Now, this is probably the one thing that really got a lot of fans upset because they thought it would have been the best time to have, considering that they were in New York, Mike Santana's home base, basically. It would have been good to have him win the title there. Now, there are some commentators are saying this is possibly the sign that Anthem is indeed going to sell out to WWE, as basically, the whole show, particularly with the two biggest matches on the card, the triple threat for the TNA World Title and the winner take all match, basically had the TNA talent being made to look inferior to the NXT talent. Not even the main roster, mind you, the WWE main roster. They were being made to look bad over the developmental brand. Not a good message for your company. But I guess Anthem and TKO just care more about money than the wrestling business itself. I think there are a lot of fans I've heard that are saying they're not going to watch TNA anymore because, it's becoming pretty clear that, TNA is going to get bought up. It might even end up. In fact, the match as a whole basically got 2.88 in terms of the ratings. But a lot of people, needless to say, a lot of people are just unhappy TNA and where they're going right now. Now, mind you, if you want to catch the type of wrestling TNA had like 2, 3, 5 years ago, they were still Impact Wrestling. Even a year and a half ago when they made the transition to, before a lot of the bigger names like Jordan Grace, like Josh Alexander, like Mike Bailey all left. You want to catch some of that action that you missed there. You should probably check out Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling with Scott D'Amore, because even though they're not a worldwide organization as of yet, Scott D'Amore, after being fired from TNA, decided to buy out the Maple Leaf Wrestling name and change it to Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. And, basically utilizing talent from AEW and some of the former talent, including the recently free agented Ace Austin. If you miss guys like Ace Austin, Bhupinder Gujar, Jonathan Gresham, Rhino, you miss some of those guys, you check out Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So, anyways, that's all I got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now, let's go ahead and, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Today is, of course, Monday, July the 21st, 2025. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Um, 1985 and 2010. All right, so first off, I'm going to head back 40 years ago. As on this date, 40 years ago today, back in 1985, um, on this date back in 1985, Toho's Little Mermaid, Marielle's Jewel Box, was released as an OVA movie by Toho. So on this date back in 1985, 40 years ago today, Little Mermaid, Marielle's Jewel Box, was released by Toho as an OVA movie. So now, getting ready to move on to the next piece of niche history, as it were. On this date in the year 2005, John William Long John Baldry passed away at the age of 64. And I'll explain why we're covering this guy in a moment. So, Long John Baldry was an English musician and actor. In the 1960s, he was one of the first British vocalists to sing the blues in clubs and shared the stage with many British musicians, including the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. Before achieving stardom, Rod Stewart and Elton John were members of bands led by Baldry. Enjoyed pop success in 1967 when Let the Heartaches Begin reached number one in the UK, and in Australia when his duet with Kathy McDonald, You've Lost That Love and Feeling, reached number two in 1980. Now here's why we're covering him. Baldry lived in Canada from the late 1970s onward and continued to make records there. Beginning in the mid-1980s, he took up voiceover work, most notably as Dr. Ivo Robotnik in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Complex from Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars. So, if you remember Dr. Robotnik from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, it was Long John Baldry who provided his voice. Passed away on this date back in Long John is a great musician. Yep. All right, hey, Metal. So with that, can we move on to the next piece in each history, as it were? Moving on to the year 2010. On this date in the year 2010, which was, of course, 15 years ago today, the 50th issue of Bongo Comics presents Futurama Comics went on sale on this date back in 2010. It sold for $2.99, was 32 pages. So on this date back in the year 2010, the 50th issue of Bongo Comics presents Futurama Comics went on sale on this date back in 2010, 15 years ago. And finally, wait, actually, finally, on this date in the year 2020, actually, before I even get into this, I need to step away. I need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. I'll put some music on while I'm gone. Wrong thing, Mike. Right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyways, so finishing up here with this last piece of niche history here. 5 years ago today, speaking of course of TNA/Impact Wrestling, on this date 5 years ago today, Motor City Machine Guns of Chris Sabin and Al Shelley defeated the North, Josh Alexander and Ethan Page for the Impact World Champion, also known as the TNA World Tag Team Champions. Of course, the Motor City Machine Guns are currently in the WWE. Ethan Page is also in the WWE, and Josh Alexander is currently in AEW. So with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope you all enjoyed the show. And I put this back here. All right. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. Hope to see everybody back here tomorrow for more Niche News. Of course, don't forget this Sunday we'll be I'll be joined by Rick Piper as we'll be looking back to comics went on sale in June of 1940, Harvey Comics. So with that, I thank you all for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on tomorrow. Bye.